I hope you have your exercise done. Now, let's just start learning about the variables. Okay, so variables are the containers that are used for storing the data values. Okay, so they are really the containers. So what a container normally used to do. Okay, so what a container normally used to do. So you just send something inside it. So whatever that thing is, that container is mainly acting as a storage device. So if we don't really know what is inside this container, so let's just say if that container was X, if a user just want show me what's inside this X, so in coding I would be writing like print X to me. So whatever that's inside this X, that would be shown to the user. Okay, good to go for now. Okay, so how we can create a variable in Python? So we just simply need to know like what should be the name of the container and what is stored inside that container. If you write this equal sign, that means that you are declaring a container and then assigning a value or storing a value inside that container. So that Y container is storing this name John, and then if I'm just showing that container to the user, I would be using that print x or print y. Python, as we have talked in the previous video also, we don't really need to declare these things in Python. We aren't really interested in knowing the type that you want to store inside that container. Whatever you want to store, just store it. Our container is like super automatic that would be automatically adjusting itself. So we won't be declaring any type of it, just like we are used to do that in the other language. So what is casting? Let's just say I declared a variable. I stored something inside that variable. So I want to know the type of that variable. For that thing, I would be knowing like what are the types that Python allow to store as a variable. We'll be learning about that type thing, what the type usually used to tell us. So we don't really know what is for. I mean, like it's a number, but how programming used to take this thing. What is this Sally? So print is like printing that thing. Casting is if you are specifying anything, any data type to a variable, or if you are casting anything that was stored inside the variable to the user. Okay. For that thing, let's just have some initial data types. Okay. If I'm just using this str, that means like I'm just having a string is like a sentence, let's just call it for now. Okay, so if I'm writing a string 3, that means 3 is not a number here, it's just a part of a message. Okay, and if I'm writing this integer 3, that means it's a number. And if I'm writing a float 3, these all are the functions. Okay, so if I'm writing a float 3, that means it's a number but with a decimal value. So in order to know that what type the container is actually carrying, so I just really have to use this function type x, type y, and x is of course the name of the container, y is of course the name. So we have learned this thing for now, and we are really interested in learning about this particular thing inside a compiler. So what the compiler used to take these things. So let's just say if I declared x equals to 5, I want to show this 5 to the user. Just simply have to click on this run thing, and let's just in the new line, if I want like print what is this x actually. So by default, what is stored inside this x is type, and whatever is in x, just tell me. So I'm just writing this line of code and then in running. So this x by default is belonging to an integer class. And let's just say if I'm writing like if the thing that was stored inside that x was str, and then that value of running it, that would be 5. Oh, I forgot to write x inside it. If I want to know the type of 5 now, so it's automatically converted into a string. So we'll be learning about that casting thing and that data type thing when we go in deep down into this stuff. We are familiar with this thing also. So this is a comment. This is a variable of type string because it's having this thing which shows that it belongs to a message category. Messages, strings, we used to write this thing in the print statement. One thing you have to be make sure of this thing. If you label a container as this is X, so you have to be really sure this X and this X, the bigger, the capital X, are not same. Okay, like in this case, so A carries 4, then A also carries Sally. Okay, A and this A are not same. Okay, this is completely taken as different variable, this is taken as a complete different variable. Okay, okay, so so far things are getting a little bit tougher, but what I used to tell my students is at the beginning just try to bear this thing, and then when we get a chance we'll be like super fine with it. We know about variables a little bit. Okay, so what types of names that we can give to a variable? So by variable I mean like the container. Okay, so what type of names that I used to that I can really give that to that? Okay, so this is a little note that I have written for you guys. Okay, so a variable can have a short name, okay, like x and y that we have been doing right now, and it can be like age, car name, total volume with the underscore on. Okay, so what are the major rule for naming a variable? Okay, a variable name must start with a letter or an underscore. Okay, so for that thing is like this, it can start with the underscore or with a letter. Okay, a variable name cannot be start with a number, so this one is like wrong. Okay, a variable name can only create alphanumeric. Okay, so that can be numbers or alphabets. Okay, and underscores. Okay, so which means like if we have declared a variable, let's just say like if I'm saying like my underscore variable underscore 2, then according to this condition this variable is true because number, character, underscore all are included. It's not being it's not like starting from a number. Previous condition was also not being violated, and we have a letter that is starting this variable name. Okay, so my variable 2 would be 2, for example. Okay, so variable names are case sensitive, as I've told you. Like if we are storing a value in x and this this, then both of these are like different. Okay, then AGER, three different variable examples. Okay, what do we really mean by that? I mean like this age and this age are like three different variables, as in case of this small capital difference of a. Okay, so we know like what are the legal characters and what are not. So underscores were allowed. Okay, this wasn't allowed. Okay, so this is also wrong, and then my variable with the space included is also not allowed. Okay, but all the above are like super. Okay, okay, so we know about like what are the illegal ones and what are actually the legal ones. Okay, now let's just remember this thing also. Now if multi-word variable names, I mean like they can be of multiple words included inside that variable name, but they are normally like difficult to read. But what I normally use to name my personal variable is like the ones that make sense to me. Okay, let's just say if I'm storing a value of iota, I mean like -1. Okay, so what I would be naming this container would be like iota underscore sqr square. Okay, so this is how I normally use to name my variables. So there are like several techniques that you can use to make it more readable. Okay, so these are like three different ways that people use to name their variable. So first one is like camel, which means like you are naming a variable but all of the letters are like starting from small letters. Okay, Pascal would be like every first letter would be a capital one. I mean like this my v and n. Sorry, I forgot to tell you this name. I mean like v and n are capital. In the second one every first letter is capital, and in the third one every starting letter is like smaller. And yeah, we have our underscores also. Would be deep diving into this variable thing, okay? But for this part assignment that I have for you is the exercise name 5 different variable and store 50 in all of them. So this is a task for this video, so I'm ending this one. Bye.